Testing, testing. There we should now have, this may have been a Windows update or something. We should now have my sound, but we don't have desktop audio yet. Right. Right, does that give me, okay, now I think we can have game sound as well. Thank you, Arno. See, you're indispensable around here. So the first, okay, first bit here, this does not have sound and, no, right. See, we need you, Arno. Okay, so we now have game and, so we're going to start making that episode over again. You know, there's just two other people here, but maybe they turned it on. I don't know. And didn't pay much attention to the lack of audio. Could be. All right. Well, let me say this. Welcome. This is Gamer1745, and we're playing what I've been calling the new beta version of Manor Lords, a very good resource management game. They have announced. Well, there should be now a little bit of sound here. There's not, maybe. And then let's get the people walking here. Do you hear the sound at all? I hope. No, there's a little bit of delay. Could turn the game's audio up a bit, maybe too. No. Okay, because I see the green bars. Desktop audio. So, but settings, audio, master volume, we're going to go up to 40%. That will probably get you some sound.
Berries, bursting with flavour, fit for a king. Berries, step right up and sample.
Well, I know I'm hearing people at the market pushing berries. Yes, good. No, very low. Okay. Let me turn the speaker down so I'm not putting too much volume to me. Let's come back here. Settings. Master volume. We're going to go up to 55, 60%. Okay. So, very helpful, Arno. Very, very helpful. Stone well. We built a stone well. We may have, I don't know, wasted, but may have let's see, I don't know, been extravagant with that. We are looking here for some more what I am trying to do here is just a road there if we need to. And here we're going to do this wheat. Now this game doesn't seem to take seasons too heavily into account, or maybe I'm mistaken that, because you wouldn't be plowing, as far as I know, and what do I know, but from, you know, documentaries and things, you wouldn't be plowing in October or November now. You might, depending on the region, you might have 2 growing seasons, maybe.
Gave the old ox a handful of months old grain. He spat it in my face.
This cough has just been lingering for weeks. Yes, and good to see you over in YouTube land as well. But so yeah, I don't know what like I say, I know there's definitely a winner in this game, but
Come on, lad. Come along.
I'm building here. Logs. Oh, we got guys over here cutting logs. Yes, now that we have sound, viewing numbers have gone up by 3 more people. Hello, people. Don't know how many there over on the Green channel are watching. We do get some views over there, but I'm not setting. Well, I could open another window, but that deals with system performance and etc. etc. These guys, I think, are going up. Probably a mistake. I don't know. To have had the lumber yard there, probably should have just cleared the land instead of trying to. Okay, so well, we're going to let taxation go a little bit more. Now we are over here digging up some iron ore. Okay. What? Wood and planks. Let's come over here and put a balloon. You need one more house. Level 2. Okay, clothing. this. What I'd like to do here is have this region, because we come here and we can see very green, very fertile, to be our bread basket, literally. Over here, we want to get this stone deposits, and I want to, as well as rich iron deposits, mining. Well, yeah, that has no food or anything over there to deal with over there. Here we can, I want to promote, we've got charcoal burning, want to do deep mining, which will be placed over rich deposits to enhance them, make them, I don't know if quite endless, but lots of resources coming out of there. I guess we have the manpower, so we will. That over here, we are turning more wheat into grain. Now, this is more just design checking. Oh, okay, so we could cram the workhouses there. Okay.
Berries, berries, bursting with flavour and fit for a kid.
62 yarn. We have our tailor's shop here that is turning yarn plus dyes. No. Here, yes, good. Settlement increase, new development, right. So what we want to do here is, I think, definitely don't want to do that because we don't have any of that. Yep. There we go, deep mining. And we have plenty of money over here, it looks like, and planks, so let's go for that. Let's get that to be a deep mine before we exhaust it. Supplies and workers over here to get our bloomery. Oh, that's pretty cool. See the kilns with the bellows to blow air into them. No, we need some more planks. Do we have the planks? Storehouse? Oh yes, we got the planks. They just have to go get them.
In the rain or snow, there's still work.
Now over here, what do we take to go to the next level? 3 level 3 plots. Well, I thought all of these are still in. Grading. Okay, we have our bloomery finished over here. We have somebody working in the large storehouse. We have 2 people working here. I think what we'll do is let's come over here and let's go. We've got a bunch of planks over there. Let's. That way we are varying the diets over here, meaning it's not just fish. We do have meats, but get some bread over here. The thing we should have probably built. Tavern. Serving a bunch of grain there. Well, it's over here. Let's start turning some of it to flour. What was the problem with Kick again? Oh, I don't know that there really was a problem. There is a problem. I should probably start streaming again on my Kick channel. What mostly wasn't getting a lot of views there, and I should try it again. Hey, ZZ. Damn this cough.
Poor quality, he said. Impossible. Come along.
Royal tax increase. Okay, we're now at 800. So what I'm going to do here is come up here and reduce the taxes down. So it's lowered us in popularity, which is fine. But we're not going to overtax. We just needed to make sure we had the treasury because of the royal taxes, even though I'm not getting clear what the thing isn't displaying well. Also have this granary over here with a lot more stuff in it. We have this pack station here. Bloomery requires fueling. Okay, what I want to build now is purple. Here we are. Purple. Yes, I'm very American. I want to have my things snapped to roads like that. I didn't get let go by Doge, so that was a pleasant surprise this week. Very good, ZZ. I've been wondering about that, worrying a little bit. Probably not anything like you, but you know, you don't need to specify at all. But I want massive cuts to what I consider not just government bloat, but you know, this may be a decent time. You know, don't. I mean, it's fine for you to ask, Arno, but don't feel compelled to answer. I can't go into details, but it's with the U.S. Navy as an engineer. Yes. How do I put this? Okay. Well, you know, this series here is subtitles. The subtitles: Individualism versus Collectivism. Right. So, and the old Obama statement. You didn't build that. And, you know, back in the 70s, there was really sort of, in my opinion, started it, the genre of post-apocalyptic movies, right? You know, societal collapse, whether it's, you know, The Road Warrior, excuse me, or other franchises or one-offs and whatnot. Well, we've already had an apocalypse. And that's, you know, when the world came to an end. You know, and it did. Now, let me add one word to it, and you'll start to understand. The Roman world comes to an end, or at least the Western Roman world. And so we enter the Dark Ages. Now, this game is set in the Middle Ages, is when we're really starting to climb out of, at least for Europe, climb out of the Dark Ages. And these people aren't living as individuals or even, you know, as a family. They aren't, you know, going out. And I know there is a game hunting element to it, but these families aren't going out and hunting their own animals and skinning them and wearing their skins. You know, it's, you know, somebody's growing the flax that's then turned into threads that's then weaved into cloth. Now there's a lot of spinning, and there's a lot, you know, these people may be spinning a lot of their own clothes and whatnot. But they may also just be buying the cloth. So they're working together as a community. And that is a type of collective, you know, collectivism versus individualism, right? Now, no one's here built any roads. I mean, yes, I have the road function That's more of a designating a path than anything else. No one is cobbling or, this is just a well-trodden path. This isn't you know, any sort of gravel, any sort of leveling, any sort of anything. It's just, hey, here's a path. Walk on it. Use it. So now this economy here, regional wealth, and this economy here, the treasury, doesn't take into account, backing up here, let's turn around, buying and selling things at these stalls. Let's see here. We don't, well, probably picked the wrong one. This person in the game isn't particularly richer because they grow carrots. Or other vegetables. So that we're not seeing that level of the economy. But that definitely did exist. But even if you want to look at this as a collective, this community here, they did build this. Herman here, did build this. Now, Herman didn't build it all on his own. He had Bartholomew and Fredlin and that's Agnes, unless this guy's Agnes here. Kunrad and Enders and there's two Bartholomews. What's this guy over here? Kuntz. These guys did build this, okay? They built this. Yeah, the women helped too, obviously. But they built this. They didn't build this, and they're not going to be the people that build this over here. And this is another element with particularly, now this is maybe something also here. I've been talking to different people. Bunch of them really think places like the United States should be broken up. Well, I entirely disagree with that. And these aren't America haters. These are American, people who love America. But they just see the system as too big. This gets to the Doge thing. The ZZ brought up. With the, a lot of the ideologies are started in the 19th century, but really put into practice in the 20th century. With their collectivist ideologies. You got communism. You got fascism, which really comes more out of socialism than communism, but socialism is a type of communism. So you also have socialism, but you have socialism, you have communism, you have fascism, you have National Socialism. All of these isms that I just spoke to you about or mentioned, all are collectivist on, and even for internationalism of communism, but in practice on a national scale. The regulations for this town are going to be the same regulations here. They're going to be taxed the same. Everything's going to be the same because it's done on a national scale. The decisions are made, communism thinks that it's implementing scientific socialism. I do have a degree in political science. I have a degree in something that doesn't exist. There, politics is not a science. Politics is, and it was labeled. Oh, there's Fritz, and there's Jacob, and there's Heinz, another Heinz, like Lawrence and Earnhardt. When they sort of, you know, post World War II, I don't know exactly when, they're trying to, oh well, are you an art major? No, no, I'm a scientific major. I'm science of politics. Well, politics is an art form, but they want to make it out as if it's as if you can scientifically create it, observe it, determine the best thing, and have it function. I think it's a mix of, when the term is created, a mix of ideology. And we can see, I know I've been different commentators talking about the last 20 years or so of this DEI and whatever. But I've been seeing it since the 70s. They just, these people don't realize how deep and evil the penetration has been. Put down human interaction at large scales, politics, not two people, or the interior of the mind, psychology or something like that. And I wouldn't even, psychology isn't a science. Hell, it's at best witchcraft. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't help people. I'm just saying we don't have it down. And hello, Jamnuska. Good to have you here. So the collectivists, the modern 20th century collectivists, and this is where we get some, they goes back to my idea of cogs and formula. Yeah, there's different grind, different wheels in the machine, so there's different sizes and shapes of cogs, but they're interchangeable to a degree. Oh, sure, you may have to train someone, educate someone to be a particular type of cog, and some will be better at that cog, being that cog, than other people to some degree. But they believe they're all interchangeable, again, with the right shaping cogs, and you just get the right formula, and everything will be fine. Everything will be good. You just got to find, cogs and formulas. Well, people aren't cogs. Formulas, because again, people are the people who implement the formulas. There's talent. So you can run things better or worse. They're not all run the same. So, excuse me. So however big government needs to be in the modern world, however much, say, road work should it be done by a person who works for the government? Should the construction equipment, as well as like the road painting, paint the lines in the road, should that all be owned by the government, or should that be contracted out to one or more private companies, paid for by the government? And yes, people can do a private road. They can, in practice or in theory or whatever, do entirely a private road. Whether it's my road on my ranch or farm or piece of property, or whether it's a road that I want to allow others to use either for free or with a toll. So you can have private roads of one form or another, but we're talking about public use roads. We need, again, like I was just saying, this is just a designated path. No one has said walk to the right, as you're going along, or, so which either side you walk to the right. No one said that here. No one has done any improvements like put down wooden planks or put down cobbles or bricks or any other sort of paving. They're only naturally impacting it with their feet, including hooves, to sort of pack it down. And yes, if you pack it down, a certain level of rain will naturally flow off to and not penetrate here and flow off to other areas. So at some level, it'll be less muddy if it's compacted. Now, if it's properly compacted, it'll be, like with a steamroller. I know they don't use actual steam anymore, but, a big heavy roller or some other thing, you can turn a dirt road into something that even with a certain amount of wheels, now it will also rut the road, but will make the road more serviceable even in the rain without, just the dirt. But so that this community does not have a sense of, at least not yet in this game, a sense of paying somebody to improve the roads, which is a thing. So again, so you can argue whether it should be the government entirely, or should the government should contract it out. But most people in the modern world, in the developed world, believe that the government is responsible for maintaining the roads, safety, all that kind of stuff. Okay. At what scale should those decisions be made? And, we have countries like China, like Russia, and we could even say it's pushing it a bit, but a country like the European Union, is that yet a country? Maybe, because it has a lot of governmental functions. It is not just a free trade zone or a military alliance or a political alliance or a, you know, some sort of, uh, you know, independent states come together. No, there's governmental bureaucracy that sits over the country, the um, the national governments that regulate the national governments in one fashion or another. So, yeah, I would say the European Union is coming to be a country, a state. Um, it may be what we would call a supranational state, meaning it's not just a national state; it's multiple nations under one state. And then you have the United States, which I would put it as a nation state because we have much more commonality of like language and society. Okay, where should the government functions be? The founding fathers, with very heavy wisdom, very much wisdom, set it to be, designed it to be, the decision making for running the people's daily lives would be in the states. Now, there are states, some were big just because there was nothing out there. Some were very small, Rhode Island, and some were sort of medium sized, the Carolinas or whatever. And that they could make and run their decisions of how they run their government. So, you didn't build that. Well, yes, you did, but you didn't build it alone. Because even if in the modern society we can point to people on the street. You didn't build that road. No, you hired somebody else. But your tax money, your efforts went into building that road. So that you should have a say on if we're going to build more roads. Is it being, are the potholes being filled well enough? You should have all that say. And so, however much government you want, and different societies, different cultures have different ideas of how much government they want. And I don't know that there's a right answer, because I don't believe in political science. I don't believe there is a science. I don't believe there is a formula that is the correct formula. So that, with that statement, I think a lot of what the federal government does do currently in the United States should be gotten rid of. And let the states do it. Now, ZZ is and I will quote him here, his job deals with the U.S. Navy as an engineer. I don't know, and he shouldn't reply, and I'm not asking whether he is a direct federal employee, which sort of sounds like it, or whether he's a contractor working for. There is a distinction. You can be an actual federal employee, or you can be a contractor hired by the federal government to work for the federal government, or third, or whatever. You can work for a company that is doing something for the federal government. I believe those are the sort of three distinctions. An actual federal employee, or a contract worker hired direct, well, maybe through sometimes for contract workers are hired through a employment firms or whatever. So you technically may be working for the employment firm that the federal government pays you, but you're working directly for the federal government and not working for a firm of, somebody like Raytheon or whatever, designing weapons for the federal government. Now the Navy is something like the Army, and we no longer have the luxury of, oh, hey, somebody declared war on us. Okay, everybody, let's start training. Let's start, like in World War I or World War II. We, like the British, because we come from the British tradition, Britain maintained a small army and knew that it had time to train up a large army if it needed to, because it was an island and it had a navy to protect it from invasion. Well, because of the time it takes to make tanks and airplanes and train pilots and tank drivers and all that stuff, we can no longer sort of have natural militias and raise an army in time of war. And with intercontinental, I know you could in theory put the put the missiles under the power of the Air Force or whatever, but we have to maintain an army. We need to maintain a standing army. So those things should be done by the federal government. And I don't know if it's actually been pushed through. I did sort of like this, that there was talk of stating that you cannot mobilize for overseas service of the National Guard without a declaration of war. And I think that would be a good thing. I think the National Guard, for overseas service. Now, the federal government can mobilize the National Guard for service inside the territory of the United States without a declaration of war. Often done, natural disaster, emergency type things. But, could be sending people down to, defend the southern border from invasion or something like that. That's different. and you just need to design your army. Now, again, for those who don't know or pay attention, the U.S. has both the National Guard and the reserves. The reserves are different than the National Guard. So, depending on what's going on. So, I fully endorse what Doge is doing. I think it's doing the good work. Some of what it's doing is getting rid of bloat, is getting rid of, there's probably federal employees who haven't done work in years, just sort of getting paychecks because they work from home now and aren't been doing anything and no one's firing them. So, some of that is, bloat, fraud, whatever. But a bunch of it is just things that I think should be done at the state level. Now, again, we can talk about how much government you want. I am not somebody who wants no government, but I definitely think it should be more localized. And so the people here make the decisions about this community, and the people over here make the decisions about this community. And that has been in the past, or recent past, for America, is a big difference between the right and the left. The right traditionally has wanted more local control, and the left, because again they have scientific socialism, or scientific whatever. Once they figure the right formula out, everybody should be following that formula and not doing things different. Well, I like the idea of federalism or confederalism or similar sorts of things. So this community can see how it's doing its thing, and a few of them visit this community over here and sees how they're doing it and see, who's doing it better and compare. Let's see what ZZ said. The problem me and my Fed co-workers have is there needs to be more precision. There are some people who should be let go that do nothing, but there are plenty that do work hard, and blanket removal would not improve the situation. Yes, should be let go. Oh yes. There should be no federal unions. Okay, unions are, we can talk whether there should be state unions or not for federal employees. I'm talking about unions and collective bargaining and all of that is fine for private industry, but not for the government, because unions are a certain political power. So it is hard to fire individuals within the federal government. So that should not be. So what are we going to do? We're going to send fish, and we're going to receive beer, ale. Okay, let's see if that'll work. And so yes, the thing, and I don't, and it may pertain to you, ZZ. I've been seeing Elon Musk tweeting or Xing. It should be Twitter X or something. He should, because he wants to do a bunch of X things, just to define it. You can reply to the email saying, or the question saying that just something like, what I'm doing is sensitive work or classified work or whatever. And part of what he wants to do, he has stated with his email stuff, is just to make sure that people are reading the emails. Make sure that people are really being some level of employee, and not just, collecting a paycheck. So part of that whole, I don't know if stunt's the right word, but part of that whole thing was just to get people to reply with something that you know. So I will not be replying to the email while standing orders from Hegseth said to pause. Oh, Hegseth, I think within the last 24 hours has said that you need to reply to the email. Look at Hegseth's Twitter feed. Now, I don't know if you have a different line of communication, but look at his Twitter or X feed. That I think, again, I think you can just reply that, you know, again, you're doing sensitive work or something. So I may be getting that wrong. So, but please do go in and look that he did recently tweet something directly on that thing within, I think, the last 24 hours or so. So you might want to check that out. But you've already said that, you know, and I presume it's because, again, I think ZZ remembers my father basically had a career working for the, you know, the Navy Department, you know, as a sub-department of the Defense Department, as a direct federal employee, but as a civilian, not as a member of the Navy for his career. So I have some, you know, talking to him over the many years, some familiarity with what's going on. You know, you could say you know, I mean, because I know he could have said something, you know, if he was, you know, oh, I'm doing engineering work, you know, or just something as simple as that without saying too much or too little. Okay, what do we want to develop here? We could rye cultivation, but we're doing very well with that. Irrigation dramatically lowers the amount of damage caused by droughts, right? Fertilization, which we could allow fencing up in pastures. Bakeries produces bread from flour with twice the efficiencies of a communal oven. Useful, but I don't know if I want to do that. If we have a limited number, we could do beekeeping. We could do armor making. Now, do we want to get to deep mining for this community? We have clay pits here, but that's a lot of clay. I don't know that we want to do deep mining for this community. So that path is unnecessary. Advanced beginning, pellet extractions, advanced beekeeping, trade logistics, foreign supplies, sheep breeding. Yes, we will do that. That way our sheep will multiply. Here, we don't have to just get them from trading. We can designate more and more land for sheep. Okay, over here we have 2 free houses and 11 unassigned workers. Okay. They're doing that. They're hitting winter. Okay. Requires fuel. Now what we have at least started to build, okay, we want them to continue to build our charcoal kiln. Looks like it was a DoD-wide update provided in a video from 2Doge on X. It makes sense that they will report broadly for the people like me since we already have our own what do you do this week system internally. Yeah, and I think, like I say, some of it is just to make sure that people are checking their emails, and that the email accounts are active and up to date, and the people are, doing it. Again, and it's, well, here I'm going into speculation. Is I think the Wonder Keen, the people who are running Doge are also using AIs to go in and examine things, to look at large data sets and get conclusions out of them, so that they can look and see. So it's not like a person sitting there scrolling through, did Bob reply? Did Sam reply? What did he say that they were doing this week? It's just, what's the return rate on the replies, and those who haven't replied, how, what's wrong with what's going wrong, why, and then start looking at that through the AI. Okay, so we have the deep mine constructed, but yeah, that I'm just talking out of my ass. I'm just guessing on all of that. Okay, so we are going to be cranking out iron, which is now a rich deposit with deep mine. I got to come all the way down here from up here, but they'll be mining. These guys will, this family will collect iron ore and collect fuel. We should have plenty of fuel, 10 months of fuel, 10 months of food. So these guys will be creating our iron for us. Now, over here, okay, so we need to, well, maybe we want to build a smithy over here. This way they will trade not just iron, because they could trade iron for like them to make weapons or whatever, but they can also trade tools. We can move this down the road a ways, a little closer for people to walk down from up there, and not so far to ship iron to here. They may want to take it there. Okay, now that it is winter time, so farm work, well, there's a little bit of winnowing going on, but what we want to do is get rid of, I thought there was a bandit camp up here, a bandit camp over here, maybe not. Okay, we have one bandit camp that has formed. So, let's get these guys and these guys. Yes, that's sort of why we're going up to the bandit camp, to stop the theft, but also to plunder it so we get a little more money in the treasury. that these guys are showing up here. Let's bring out our professionals. They show up at the... Okay, we want to head... It's here, so we want to head this way.
Pick up the pace.
Fortunately, this game doesn't have winter attrition for soldiers, or this would be a bad idea. All right, Jamnuska, good to have you back. Okay, now that we're here, let's move to
We all know what that means.
here. Also, they probably wouldn't be running this far, but whatever. So let's get that
Move quickly, my lord.
to that side of the road, this group to this side of the road.
Faster, my lord.
And these sort of
Run.
We're doing this without archers. I've yet to see at this current build archers kill anybody. They seem to only get killed if the enemy gets close enough to them. Maybe they're doing some morale damage or something. I don't know. That is... part of the reason what I'm doing here is to see if we don't have any archers, to see if the battles go different. Now, most camps seem to do about 18 people. And we have approximately 21 for these.
Yes, sire. Heavy infantry. Run.
Coming out to play, so that's nice. Let's set it right there. 2 ranks deep. You can just get this side of the thing here, maybe. Time. Sort of heavy reserve.
Yes, sire.
Is there another bandit camp? Uh-oh, there's another bandit camp. We're gonna have to deal with them. 2 also. We can do that on the way back. Just impatience. And take the runoff so they don't tire themselves out, but we'll advance up here.
Pick up the pace! Advance! Kill them all! It's time for war! Rip their heads off! Here we go, boys! Come on, lads!
Charge into that unit. These guys can come. Nope. Nope. Bring around that way. To attack one over here. Don't know how they can tell who each other's side is. Well, apparently without casualty, which is good. Now we're gonna go back and run here. Hey, Beam Slam! Yes, more bandits. We're gonna deal with the bandits. You come up to here.
Move quickly! Forward!
You come back. Back down this way because they're just north of this one settlement there.
Pick up the pace!
Because we could use more money in the treasury.
March!
Okay, finish the smithy. So, over here. The bloomery. Okay, so they have 2 iron slabs and 1 in production at least. Now hopefully they will get the iron slabs and put it into hammers and other things, but hammers. So what we're doing is we're setting up an economy here. I mean, that's what this whole game is.
Snowy out. Christen landing blessing.
Fire!
But we're setting one up. Okay, you come to here.
Move quickly!
With specialization. So they don't grow any wheat currently. food stalls. Let's see if they have any meat. No, it doesn't look like it. They should be trading some bread, or I should say bread, not wheat. They should be trading bread for fish. Because they have a huge amount of fish available. They have huge amount of iron available, so they're making iron slabs and tools. Get some of those stockpile. Uh-oh. Yeah, I have sympathy for issues with landlords. I'm very much in the process of getting out of my place. I'm just taking longer than necessary. But I hear you. To grow to a new level here, we need more level 3 places. Now you will see now that it's 2 families are residing here in this level 3 plot. Oh, let's go for ghosts. No, I'm moving to the mountain base, secret mountain base. I own the secret mountain base where I rent my place in the coastal community that I live in. Currently ain't getting out yet. No. I think my biggest problem with the secret mountain base is how dry it is. One thing I've learned is for every approximately, it's not 100% or exactly equal, but approximately for every 1,000 feet in elevation, you lose 1% of oxygen. And you're at about 20% oxygen at sea level, just to give you a baseline if you don't know. So,
Pick up the pace.
I have that concern as well. You can get little oxygen meters that you put on your finger, and it'll tell you how much percent of oxygen you have, and in your bloodstream at any one time. And normally down here at the ocean, I'm running in the very high 90s, not necessarily 100%, but 97, 98, whatever. Where there, I'm often at like 92 or 93. As long as you're over 90%, you're doing okay. But that is an issue. The oxygen is an issue there at my secret mountain base, but I think it's more dryness is my real issue there. So I've got humidifiers keeping my interior space let's look this way. Right.
Your orders. Yes, sire. My liege. Yes, sire. Run!
I know a lot of people don't think about these things, but I do a bit.
Pick up the pace! Fire! Faster! Fire! Run! More orders! My liege! Yes, sire!
Let them come to me through the forest. We'll fight them in the open. And then we'll head home. There they are.
Here we go, boys!
Okay, so they picked that unit to attack.
Heavy infantry! Charge!
These guys go there. These guys take on the flanking unit. Yeah, well, I want to everybody who's watching, this is not a war game. Total war, no, not at all. This is not a war game. This is a resource management game, if you will, that has some combat in it. Whether they do the combat well or poorly, that's another question, but we're going to bring the workers this way, and these workers this way. We're going to send the, no, I don't want that. These guys, they're going to go to the tents. These guys. We want to get the workers back as fast as possible to working. These guys, the retinue doesn't work. I've not played Mountain Blade. It looks good. I just haven't yet. Just not enough time to play everything. Where's the... oh, here's... we need it in the treasure. Okay. The towns are... well... towns are getting more or less enough. Town... needs to do more exporting. Or it's been doing a lot of importing of weapons, maybe. Import spears, yeah. Export bows.
Pick up the pace! My lord! Pick up the pace!
What are the entertainment options in our age? Yes. Possibly too much. I don't know if what we have is too much. one guy working the logging camps. Now the problem, potentially, of getting a lot of high-level buildings is that if you can't provide all of these things, you know, clothing, tavern access, all that, etc., etc., you will lower your approval rating. Where if you're just level 1, it's easier to get the approval ratings. I think you're gonna maybe run past the block, so we're gonna have you run back as a units and then disband you, which not really disbanding, you're just saying go back to work. Now, they are, now I know why we're not getting in any ale. Because I don't have a person assigned here. Now we should get some ale here. Now we do have some granary, some bread to go along with our fish. And, well, meat is sort of over hunted, so we'll reduce you down. Games I want to play, but limited time. Back 20 years, there was enough games to play each several times. Yeah, I hear you. You go back, hang out at the manor, dudes. Yeah. Okay, we're still grinding grain. We still have a lot of grain into wheat, or into flour, I should say. Boy. Are these? Do these have to be the same? No. This is... Right. We're going to send bread. But we would like some tools.
He spat it in my face and tried to carve me a new nipple.
There's tools. Play war on these two, but still have to finish. Yeah, that the grand campaign, you know, is massive. Yeah, it's sort of that. What is it though? That war. The North Africa, the sort of famous North Africa. I mean, you want to call it a board game or tabletop. It takes many multiple things. The one with the huge map. Even the designers supposedly never finished the playing through the game. They designed the game, but they never. So I'm sure somebody's finished it, but it's one of those things that is sort of too big, and most people don't have the time to actually get through it all. One. Hey, thanks for following. Yeah, I loved some of my multiplayer games that I played. And I don't mean something like, brief battles like War Thunder. I mean like, campaign things. But it's a combination of scheduling and I don't know, not necessarily, you don't know whether people are losing interest or just life happens and all the guys coming back from the wars, the battles. You did this without loss, people, no loss. No, maybe a few scars, but no losses. So I remember trying to play War in the East board game when I was a teenager. The biggest map I had ever seen. It lasted a few months, and then my friend Cat had enough and destroyed the setup. Yep. Yeah, I'm doing this simultaneous. That is Germany. Yeah. Though sure, go ahead and play it, but my opinion, by 43, the war should be lost. For Germany. Okay, come spring, we don't want to do it in winter, but come spring we're going to colonize over here. We should probably set up, well, somewhere centrally so that we get both wild berries and wild animals to start for food early on. Storage is full, deep mines. I presume this must be over here. Okay. So let's reduce down the amount of people mining, increase the amount of people bloomering. And we're making tools. They're trading fish for ale, which we should. But once we get some ale in the granary, eggs, meat, bread. We don't have any carrots at the moment, but we do have a couple of flocks. Well, I find World War II fascinating. I definitely see the at various moments potentials for Germany to win. Over here. Want that area cleared.
Well, perhaps it was simply a bad day. These things do happen.
So, even did it before Arno asked for it. They ate it. I don't think they ate the cat. So we're going to walk down our most developed street for housing. The full developed housing houses 2 families instead of 1 in this space. I don't know whether... Can we go walk into this? No, it won't let us walk in. Okay. I don't know whether they mean it to be 2... you know, entirely separate families, or now just big enough that it is functionally an extended family living there. I don't know if cats or even dogs understand warnings. I thought they did. I might be more willing to have them. Taking a lot of logs. Firewood he's bringing somewhere, maybe to home. A bit of water. Planks. Ale for the tavern here. A lot of outdoor spaces, even though it's winter. So we get to walk into this one. Okay. We're inside for once. Yay. Walk out through the wall. Alright. This is early access. It's still a very fun game, people, but it is early access. What we did, we walked through some back there and looked at some chickens, I believe it. No, it was some goats. You can check that over here. It's a ghost, yes. No one seems to pay attention. I guess they're all just trying to look busy and not look me in the eye. What I think is eating up a lot of our money here is we've increased the number of troops. So we're having to buy weapons. Which, over here we have, I think it's 1 or 2, no, what did we, oh, we went the sheep breeding way. Right, okay. I need to increase that. So, we've got 2 people working the sheep. We've got 15 sheep there. Waiting for more livestock for the moment. Ghost of gaming past, yes. February. With cutter's lodge, we're going to specify cut wood back over here. logging camp. But we need more logs. Oh, we also want to specify here. Try to clear out this area a bit more, and then we'll build some more housing over here. Hello, AKIF or AKIF. I don't know, it's all capitals, so I don't know if that's supposed to be initials or a name. Not a name I'm familiar with if it is. Could be into the afterlife. Thank you very much. We also have a smaller village over here that's supplying us with some resources. The main village over here, which we're continuing to develop. This is where we grow things. Both, well, wheat, barley, and flax. No rye as yet. Weaver shop. Okay, well they look like they've gotten through all that they can weave at the moment. We've got yarn and linen and stuff. So over here, tailor shop. Okay, let's come over here. Let's just go over to lint into Robinson's, I guess. I don't know how you pronounce that. Yes, we have 3 levels of housing. Basic housing with thatched roof. Highest level development housing, and medium development housing. Medium, low. No, what don't we have? Oh, water access. What we have, well, over here. Well, over here. Well, I don't want to use up the little stone I have left. Well, there's... Oh, well, where we got a underground one. There it is. Filter, no, not big enough. Well. I think there's too little stone in some of these quarries. Oh, okay. Now that we have spring enough Start going after those berries. Oh, there's a brewery somewhere. Let's harvest that. We want to switch to something else, I think. I'm not good at staff paperwork. I would fail at that. That's our church. Stone church. As small, as big as we can get it. That's pretty nice. Well, we should be trading. Okay, we now have some ale. But what we're going to do is somebody to work in the tavern. I think I want to build another hitching post.
Step right up and sample.
Put it right in there. That's great. Napoleon liked lucky generals. Oh, I was going to look at my shelf and talk about the book that I have here, but nope, it's packed up. Shelf's still here, but the books are packed up. Look at this. Okay, well, that's pretty cool graphic. We got a hot fire going there. No one working the bellows at the moment. Guess he was out transporting an iron slab.
Summer's coming soon, and soon the beating sun.
Oops, only take one back, but doesn't have the iron slab there. I see him in the right posture for holding one.
Why do I have to carry this alone? Oh, this is heavier
I
than
think
books.
that was meant raking the iron out of the he's down in one place and he's going to hear. So, okay, so it's gotten hot enough and he's hammering it to get the slag, the very impure parts of the iron, off from the more pure. And so that's no longer hot because you're no longer doing it. He's faking to work, yes. Oh, it was, see, I've read a book, people. a book, an actual book. I'm forgetting its name. English translation. Um, it was about one of Napoleon's generals. His sort of biography. Um, I think he saves Napoleon's life once or twice. It's been a long time since I read it. Um, he's like the one of the most loyal generals. Uh, at one stage, he's holding the main sort of fortified armory in Paris when all the Allied armies show up and whatnot. It's a pretty good tale. Um, boy, French names and all. I can't pull it out of my head um, without looking at the book. But yeah, we are rich deposits. Over here, we have zero money. So, which is not good. We're going to stop importing spears. We're going to stop importing large shields. We're going to still export war bows to hopefully get us some money. We do have merchants for that. Upgrade that. Good. Dyes. I think we're going to stop exporting dyes as well. Well, we're supposed to be hold a lot more. I thought we should be getting grazing on pastures slowly multiply, right? They should be multiplying slowly, yes. Write a book? I don't know if my skills are up to write a book. But I will let you watch all my videos, Arna. I've got lots and lots of videos for you to watch. You can watch all of them for free. All right, it's spring. I forgot. Okay, we are here. So we're going to come over to the area that we claimed over here. But there's nothing here. So what we're going to do is no, here. There's a settler's camp. We've got berries there. And there's very little here. Very little no, 500 is a bit much. Very little fertile land here. So let's oh boy. Well, I think what we need to do very first is get our food supplies. There, into the granary so that it's protected from rain and other damage. None with face cam, but you can watch all the videos, Arna. Many thousands of hours.
This is heavier than it looks.
It's good entertainment, but it's entertainment. Now this has two families being the brewer. Crafting, so they should be turning a fair amount of the malt into barley. Okay. Let's see about trading off ale here. No ale? Am I missing it? I guess. Oh, there's ale. Okay. Oh, we need 400 for trade. We don't have that. Well, do we need to export guys? Right. Anything over 30 you get to export. Over here is another. Oh, not pretty sure. Behind the tree here? No. Oh, here's that one. You watch a good part of the Black Ice videos when I wanted to figure out something also for the reviews. Well, thank you, Beam Slam. Hope you the day. Well, I am planning on setting up a studio in my new home. You know, production sort of studio. We're going to reduce stuff. Get a few more rolling there. What's an interesting question, ZZ? How many hours would a medieval peasant work? Well, they're only going to work in daylight because I would say for the most part, you know, I'm not saying they don't have fires at night, but a fire, and I'm sure they often did have fires. That's, you know, we have firewood here and whatnot. A fire just sort of illuminates a little bit of an area, and you're not going to be doing much work. once in a while, like when you're firing a, when they're making a clay furnace here. Let's zoom in here on this. Okay, well, because I've seen in some documentaries and recreations, these things here would often be the actual furnace would be built. But as you're building it, you would put in all of the dried tiles or bricks or clay pots or whatever. And you would build the thing and seal it up. You're really worried to make sure that everything is dry inside, because if any of the clays, whether they're bricks or pots or whatever, has any moisture, they'll create bubbles and pop and destroy the thing. And so they'll be worried about rain, and it'll be something. It could easily be like 48 hours, but it could be just 24 hours that they would have to, keep the kiln fed with fuel. So they're working 24 hours a day. Now, whether it's one person or somebody's up 24 hours a day, well, sure. And this is like an occasional thing to do. And so, sure, they'd be working all night, or of course, multiple people in multiple shifts. But most of the work is really functionally going to be done at daylight. So you're going to be waking up slightly before dawn, getting dressed and going out and working. And there's definitely through the Middle Ages the concept of excuse me, how many calories are you burning to make the calories that you are consuming? Like I've talked about, this game has a windmill, and I would say windmills were not the most common. I would say water mills are more common because the wind isn't reliable, etc., etc., etc. Water is pretty reliable. But in the game sense, well, you can only put a water mill along some sort of stream or river and etc. It's going to be harder to plunk it into a game. And they definitely existed. People definitely used them. But they cost. Okay, they cost. A lot of people had a grindstone in their house. I know this is a granary, but let's go over to the more peasanty homes of the thatched roof. A lot of these people would have a grindstone in their house, and it was normally a woman's job to grind the grain into flour. And part of this is a storage situation. My understanding, you got to keep it dry either way, but grain will last longer than flour. And so there's a lot of, you've got your grain that you're probably hanging up inside the home here. Oh, it's not going to let me in, is it? Oh, no. You're hanging, from the rafters, hanging it down to keep animals from getting at it, whatnot. And you're taking out your daily allowance for grain. You're grinding it into flour. You're baking the flour into bread. You're, maybe once in a while you're getting fresh meat. Often, though, in which we, now have in the game sausages and whatnot. Your preserved meats, preserved fishes. And so there's a lot of effort there to get your calories. Now, of course, the farmer, with women also worked in the fields too, are all, growing the wheat, doing all of that kind of stuff. But you're also going to get your water, is going to the well work? Absolutely. So going to the well is getting your water, or is working. Taking care of your goats or your pigs or your vegetable garden. Now, there were also lots of holy days. That's where we get the word holiday from. Holy days. That were, and these weren't just 2 or 3 times a year. These were 2 or 3 or more, possibly, times a month. That you would have days that you would have religious festivals. And these were often very party-oriented, fun. These weren't the dour Protestant kind of things that you later see in England, at least I know, that, and particularly in Scotland, that are very boring and very, very dour. These were, sort of local or festivals. And then you had Sunday, which was normally sort of a half day off for religion, and maybe the other half, particularly in England, trying to encourage shooting of bows as opposed to playing football. Football was a very rowdy game back then, at least in England, in which large numbers of people would play on either side, and it was a thing. So there's a lot of that stuff going on. Now, the chickens still needed to be fed on a holy day, and there's still stuff to be doing. So a lot of your day was work. I'm not saying in any way that they didn't at times upgrade to a large tavern. Interesting. I need more stone before I start spending what little stone I have left, because I've used up all the stone in this quarry, and I have a large storehouse with 15 stone. And once that's done, it's gone. There's very little stone over here left, another 16, and whatever's in their storehouse, they may trade me. I need to get that with a deep deposit so that I can start building stuff. But so yeah, it's now not all, and work isn't okay. Let's get people to bring the wood into the, or not the wood, the bread into the storehouse, or into the granary. We'll put the storehouse in just a moment. Work isn't like in the more modern sense of something you go do for an income. It's sort of like a constant existence back then. And because this is a game, and the game designer has designed things, but this isn't the way it worked, in that these guys don't have the job of working in the fields. You had, and I know I've explained it before, but you had land that was sort of, if you will, directly owned / managed by the Manor Lord, and people had a certain amount of time or whatever that they needed to put into that job, but they also had their own bits of land. Now, not the tailor, not, where is it, the bowyer. You know, his thing is making bows. You know, he isn't. You know, this is why they have it as a craftsman here. He isn't just. You're still. Yeah. This is his job, and he's, you know, he's sort of, if you will, self-employed. A lot of these people are, you know, it's a mix of self-employment and, you know, some commitments of labor or military service or whatever to the Manor Lord and to society. So it doesn't fit into our, I guess a lot of work was determined on the weather and season. Absolutely. When you got planting, because again, this is, I think this current implementation of sort of annual whatever here, this is very much a, at the right time, you get out and you sow your seeds because you need to do it. And then you sort of maintain the fields, dealing with weeds and trying to keep pests away. But a lot of it is just sort of sitting there. Now there's other work to be done, but it's not that you get to take a vacation. But then all of a sudden it all needs to be harvested. And everybody needs to get out and harvest of every sort of age. And you're trying to get that harvest in and into the barns to dry it out and preserve it and deal with it. And, you know, yes, at some point, like we see, turn it from like wheat, you know, on the stalks, winnow it out into grain. And so there will be heavily labor intensive times. And from, because I'm involved with some living history. Living history is much more than cosplaying, than dressing up. And we had some fairly well-trained people, and one of them, I'll just use, you know, her name, Katrina Worley, a published author. But she could take a fleece, which is, they would, I don't know that she may have sheared a sheep in her life, I don't know. But, and because I've seen her do at least stages of it. So, normally when you cut the wool off of the sheep, it comes off as one piece. If you're doing it well, it comes off as one piece. And she could take it from that, clean it, from that, she could take it into a piece of clothing, okay? And whether knitted or, you know, woven wool. And a lot of the Highlands, and these were done by women, they use drop spindles. So a drop spindle is sort of like a child's top, and what you do is you sort of you get it spinning, and you use gravity, and it spins and it goes down to the ground, and you keep doing this to create thread. Now a spinning wheel, I don't know, let's just say it's 5 times more efficient, but it's more expensive. In the Highlands, that was maybe something that most people didn't have. So these people, and there's definitely sex segregations as at least standard work types. It's not necessarily absolute or whatever. And so that there is probably going to be doing a lot of spinning or weaving or other sorts of stuff. And instead of in a weaver's workshop. Not that they didn't have them. I do know that they did have that type of a thing, but so much of it was just done out here. And if you could, and a loom, how do I put this? A loom is fairly easy to make if it's primitive. You can see like the Indians, the American Indians, with their very simple sort of looms, making very crude cloth. And that's just literally sort of actually a frame. And it's, you know, what we would think is very crude blankets or whatever. If you had proper looms, they would be, you know, bigger, sort of human-powered, but rather large and expensive. And then they had simple looms that would create basic cloth really slow, so that, you know, that could be done during the winter. And oh, and men did weave, at least in the Scotland. So what goes up the spinning wheel has to go round and round. Is that what I think from a song Jamnuska is doing? What goes up must go down. Spinning wheel has to go round. Got to go round. I think that's from a song, but not placing it just exactly. So, you know, there's lots of effort going on to maintain things. And so there isn't a, you know, I mean, I have a pair of 18th century style, I mean, it's not from the 18th century, modern manufacture, but 18th century nice shoes. But I've also made myself, I'm going to call them moccasins, but they're actually called corons, and they're the Scottish primitive Highland type footwear, almost a shoe, sort of like a moccasin. I made that myself, and so a lot of this stuff, their shoes and whatnot, they'd make themselves. They're not that hard to do. And so, you know, you do that kind of stuff as much as you could, you know, in the winter when you're staying at home, trying to keep warm because it's snowing outside. And so, yeah, you're constantly doing stuff to maintain everything. Blood, sweat, and tears. That the band, I think you're saying. I think that's Blood, Sweat, and Tears. So yeah, it's a constant sort of life of toil. Most people in the West have no idea how good they got it compared to what most of humanity has had, and maybe even most of humanity still has it. Yes. Okay. Good. See, I'm following. I've got to listen to some Blood, Sweat, and Tears. It's been a long time. Okay, we have our bread inside. So let's get these people now. We're going to make a storehouse so that we put the rest of the supplies, the stone here or whatnot. Do we lose our tools? I don't know. Maybe they got stolen. Damn. I think we have bandits around, do we? Not right now. Don't know what happened to the tools. Didn't have much Netflix, so instead they did work around the fireplace or candles, yes. Even compared to 100 years ago, we are living the dream. Wealth, medicine, less work. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Come on, laddie.
I don't know what happened to the tools. Maybe they'll show up. Maybe they're being used here, the hammers. I don't know. I do at times wonder how much the lack of
Come on, laddie.
Come on, people, get to work.
lack of necessity to do things is affecting psychology of humanity. Meaning for most of us in the West here, we don't have to struggle to survive. There's no concept of like, oh, we have to do something so we survive. And for so many of us, not all by any means, but so many of us, it's work. Yeah, work by the sort of term and idea
Whoa, this is heavier than it looks.
is not the fun part of things, you know. But
Start for me and me own.
we look at our jobs as something. Oh, we gotta go to work. Oh, this is blah. Yeah, blah, you know. Oh man.
Summer's coming soon.
As opposed to get. Oh my God, I get to go to work today. I have a job. I have a purpose. You know, it because they see it as, well, if they weren't working, government would give them money, give them apartment, give them food. And I see that as a no work, no food. Hello, Blast Pop. It's been a while. I have to work to survive. Many are one check from being in the street. Well, yeah, but no. No. Well, I don't know where you're from, but I'm talking about the Western world. And a lot of places, you know, it's like, hey, in America, if you're not an American, you know, now if you're American, it's tough. But if you're not an American, you show up, they'll give you a hotel room. They'll give you food. They'll give you money. They'll give you a phone. You know, it's only if you work will they start taking that stuff away from you. So a lot of people in America can just stop and the government's going to take care of them. And so you've got to, you know, you don't end up in the street. You end up on the dole. You end up in government housing. You end up there. most, not all, most of the much homeless problem we have here in California and other states, but California is particularly bad, are people with problems. Not the problem most. Not all, but most, which meaning more than half, are people with mental problems, people, which maybe is a subcategory, but addiction problems, and so that are living in the street. These are people that can't or choose not to be able to hold down jobs. Some of the housing has requirements of like trying to be sober or whatever, and so they don't want to go into the provided housing. They want to live on the streets. And I know of people that want to live on the streets. Now, a friend of mine doesn't live on the streets, but he has a bus, and he lives out of the bus. And it was a school bus, a short school bus that, and this is the way he chooses to live. And he has a bus, and he moves around periodically. And I don't know how much government assistance. I bet you he's on these medical assistance. I don't know that he's on money aid. I don't pry into his private life too much. Money aid from the government. But, now he has more, this is why I say, homeless friends and other people that are more marginal that choose to live that way. Because they don't want to conform and get a job. They don't want to try to do other things. So, yeah, we are in a place that I'm an American and I get squadros from the government. Okay, I'm an American. I don't know what squadros. The gov. Okay, not quite sure. That's pop. I'm retirement age. I can never retire, nor do I really want to. Yeah, I understand people don't want to retire. People want to have a meaning in life and want to work. And that's just the way their mindset is, and some people need to. The peasants need to work or they starved. They were probably more concerned by the amount of crops, etc. Yeah, like I say, particularly the 17th and 18th century, I studied in depth in the Highlands, which were very poor and in many ways still looking like the medieval world as opposed to the 18th century world of, down, in places, whether a city like Edinburgh or London or the English farming countryside. They were much more primitive. So I have some familiarity. In the Middle Ages, I'm going to say most people could readily have a home. Even your villains, which, and I'm saying it different than villain, villains are a class of people described in the Doomsday Book. And they would be basically day workers without any rights. Now, before you start to think, oh, they're slaves. No, not at all. I mean rights. And this is the sort of the English concept of a right. let's just say, this is grazing land here. Maybe half of the houses here have the right to put one cow out on that grazing land. There may be several areas of the common land. Okay, so that is a right. They have a right to have a cow. Now, this house here and this family here may not have a cow, but they trade that right to have the cow with the house next door to them for something, so that the house next door to them has 2 cows out there grazing instead of 1, because it's traded the right that will always be with this house here to have a cow grazing. And so you can, trade, maybe for a certain amount of cheese or something, that preserved milk, so that, rights, or a right to sections of fields, or other sorts of rights. A villain would be, a day worker. And so he is, or he doesn't have it, he's not like part of the retinue. Now here we just have, when we call up the troops, we just have the retinue of 9 fighters, and we can click here, which sort of with people, here is, management families, if you will, for the estate, including, somebody's cooking for the retinue and the lord and everything else, So a villain is just, get work when and where you can kind of thing. But he would probably, or at least mostly, now it might not be as nice a house as size scale this one is, but he would have a home. Now, living in this house is almost like, for a lot of us modern people, living out, camping out. Could say living on the street, but, the idea that you have shelter from rain, you have some level of shelter from cold, it's there. You can put down a mat of some sort to sort of sleep on. It's very primitive. It's not like, there's no electricity, there's no indoor plumbing, there's no, there's fire cooking, sure, but there's no more modern stoves to just turn on or use a microwave or whatever to cook. There's no, it's camping out, if you will. And so, yeah, and clothing. These people didn't wash very much. They didn't wash their clothing very much. They stunk. So clothing is an issue, but not a major one. It is basically food. And so, and it's, for most of the people, most of the time, because there was, famines, and there were, military attacks with an army coming through, taking everything, goats, pigs, whatever, to eat, stripping the land, whether as a deliberate policy or just soldiers stealing stuff. There was definitely that going on, but normally the biggest problem with food that I can get from my, studies is preserving the food. That's why cheese is so great, because whether goats or cattle or whatever, you're producing that milk, and then you're preserving it for the winter, or off times when you don't have a recent harvest, because grain will eventually go bad. You can preserve certain amounts of it, but it doesn't last forever. Uh, meat, you're trying to preserve the meat. When you slaughter a cow or you slaughter a sheep, well, how long is that meat going to be good? So you want to preserve it. So food preservation, because again, they didn't have really, in any practical sense, didn't have refrigeration or freezing. We can talk about rare instances of them actually doing that kind of stuff in certain, mountain communities or something like that. I wonder if the people just got nose blind to body odor. Oh yeah, oh yeah. No, yeah. It's just the smells of the world. Okay. Um, Everybody did smell the same, whether folks or animals. Oh yeah. Um, Again, for the Highland houses that I know of, during the winter, the house would have 3 rooms. Down at this end here, where you would come in, would be a room that your cattle would be in for the winter, um, because it was too cold outside, and so you would bring your cattle and put them in stalls, and they would sit or stand, eventually sit or lay down in that stall for the winter. So they're shitting and pissing through the whole winter in this house, in this room, in your entry hall, because this is the way you entered through here, and um, and so you'd have to muck that out. Then the next room is the room that you lived in, and you all lived in the room. Now, uh, the stool, they didn't really have chairs like we think of as nice chairs. They had short stools because if you stood up, you were in smoke. So you sat on stools that are low down to the ground to keep you out of the smoke, because there was a fire in the center, no chimney, fire in the center that would fill the roof cavity with smoke, which helped kept the pests out. I don't know if I could recite all the stuff. They looked at some of the mummified remains of some of the Greenlander Vikings. I was watching a thing on that just last week or so, and some of the various parasites. And one of the things is that they looked at the lungs, and they could tell that the lungs had a lot of smoke, remains in their lungs. So you had to keep below the smoke level. And then the third room was sort of a guest room. Now that did maybe have nice chairs, but you didn't use it because you were heating mostly this one room that everybody lived in. If it was sort of a standardized family, the husband and wife would have a cabinet called a box bed. But think of it as a cabinet, a wooden cabinet that they would climb into and sleep inside of this to preserve heat and give them a bit of privacy. The kids would sleep out on the floor, and maybe grandma or grandpa would also sleep on the floor. The floor was generally hard-packed earth with a fire in the center. Everything happening in this one room. Okay, so and the fire often in the Highlands, because there was very, very, very little wood, was peat. So you're burning dirt, basically. Very rich dirt that burns very well, or burns slowly, which is good because you want it to last through the night and create some heat, but you don't need a big raging fire. Slow simmering kind of heat. So you were living with your cattle, maybe you had a dog, and your family in one room. You have no plumbing. You're shitting and pissing in a pot and throwing it out periodically. Yeah. So yeah, you take a shit in the pot and you put the pot over in the side, and so you're sitting next to your shit that's stinking up, and when 2 or 3 people shit in the pot, okay, now it's full enough, now let's go throw it outside. So yeah, the body odor, I don't think that that's even the most smelly bit of it. I have slept above cow stables in the hay and getting a funny smell in the uniform, but nicely warm. Yeah, but a lot of, well, I'm not used to cow stables. I'll say that. I'm used to horse stables. Because I come from a ranching family. I mean, the cattle were just outside, and never got so cold that you would need to bring them in. Might be covered in snow or something enough that you're dropping hay or alfalfa out them for the cattle and or the horses to eat. But even then, for the horse stables, yeah, they pooped in the stables and you need to clear that out. But they also pooped outside a lot. So it wasn't, because again in the highlands for the winter, they built their houses out of stone, okay, but it was dry stone, meaning it doesn't have any mortar. It's just purely stone piled on each other, thick enough that the wind doesn't get through it. And so they would, walk the cattle in through the door and put them in each of their stalls. Normally, by the end of winter, when spring has come, when they get out there, they would literally have to rip holes in their walls and drag the cattle out, because the cattle couldn't walk. And you drag them out here into the grass, and they start feeding grass. You start putting food in front of them, and they start getting, their muscles back to sort of being walking again. Now, they would also bleed the cattle to get blood to make blood pudding, for some more protein. Slit their necks and bleed them out a bit. So yeah, you were, and so these are, all living through the winter there. And yes, as Beam Slam's saying, nicely warm. Yes, the cattle were a source of heat. So yeah, this isn't like we live. This isn't like some nice reenactment village that you may go to, in which the reenactors get their wool clothing dry cleaned once a month or something. Their underwear, and I mean underlayers, modern cotton underlayers of clothing that gets maybe washed daily. But I do not wash my this may shock you. I don't wash my jet denim jeans between every wearing them. I do wash underwear and whatever between wearing them, but my jeans I wear for a while. They get dirty enough. I then wash that pair of jeans, and and so, and at least guys will wear jeans more than once between washing. So no, I'm not getting, if they get dirty or whatever, yeah, I'll wash them, but depends on what I'm doing. And so, and in a modern day suit, you take it to the dry cleaner once in a while to get that kind of thing clean. But they didn't have such the idea of underclothing like we think, and they may never wash a particular clothing in its history. Air cleaning, yeah, they might do some of that, but it depends on how many sets of clothes they have. And they might not have much more than the clothes they have on their back. Literally. So I sort of like the term toil as opposed to work. That their life was constant toil, constant effort to maintain. What are we doing over here? This is where I should be watching because that's sort of running itself. Okay, we need to get you out here to start getting food coming in. Okay, I don't know what's happened to the tools. Now we have a limited amount of logs. Put you over here. Food. And then I think we'll build housing. Where is our water? Oh, good. Water's right sort of there. Looks like we don't need guys living here anymore for the moment. Okay, we're starting to build up some regional wealth again here. We're no longer importing weapons or other things, just exporting some spies and warbows. We're trading over here. Let's see, do we have? We have tools. Okay, good. Well, okay. I think I didn't expect weapons. Maybe it's okay, tools. Okay, we can do here is export tools. We're going to let's keep 10 as a desired surplus. So we can get money selling the tools that these people over here are making, and we're trading them. Let's see, is it this one here? No, they're trading ale for fish. The tavern has ale, so that is functioning correctly. So over here, we are trading bread for tools. So they are, the communal oven is making bread in excess that we need for this community. And so all these fields. So we're growing wheat, turning it into flour, turning it into bread, trading the bread for tools. And then we're selling the tools for cash. See, that's the economy working right there. Here we have hunting camp, which is processing. What is 7 months fuel, 2 months food? Okay. Well. Get that going this season still. Once we have that built. Okay, logging camp is finished. On community, here we are. We'll put one person, or one family, I should say, working on there. Still two that'll get over there to make sure we get food. Okay. Yeah, just isn't worth. Yeah, with some rye, we could turn some of this area into decent farming land, but I'm just not even going to try, really. Put a bell there. This is high priority. So I am very, very glad to be living in the 21st century. All of our problems, and we got many. Some of our problems are how to deal with all of our, you know, if there are any streams on Slytherin on Monday. Well, I can find that out. Just let me pause this here. I can look at our schedule. Sometimes, because I haven't updated my schedule because Yog Dog, I am still sad about Yog Dog, of course. He was the volunteered and got to adding all this stuff, and so now we have to do our own. Okay, on Monday, 4:15 p.m. in Greenwich Mean Time, Flashpoint Campaigns Hexaboo will be on Monday. That is it. I'm not streaming next week, though I do have streams the week after. It's actually sort of good for me not to have any. Thursday, Panzer Corps 2 Frontlines Cyrenaica preview. That'll be there, done by the developers. And then Friday, it'll be Warhammer Field of Glory Kingdoms, another preview by the developer, and Terminator Dark Fate. So it's basically Hexaboo and DOS Tactic next week. I'll be the week after on Monday, but that's it. So just Thursday the Panzer Corps 2, and then so Flashpoint Campaigns Monday, and then Friday. Yeah, ZZ, I didn't know you didn't know. Yeah, he died. Very sad tale, but yeah. So, miss him. Miss him. We all do. He was a troubled person. Maximizing the fishing taking in. that we trade for fish. Yeah, no, he was a really nice guy. Okay, so we have that. Let's do that. Get more housing.
Berries, bursting with flavour, fit for a king.
Now, another thing about this economy and a modern economy. And I could say why capitalism doesn't work for this economy. I know that might be heresy to a lot of people. And I don't mean capitalism would be bad or capitalism doesn't work as opposed to a planned economy. And here's the thing. You do not have the ability to efficiently transport goods. And I'm really pulling this from all of my education, you know, including in universities and all the stuff that I've ever read and documentaries and stuff I've studied and, you know, many sources. You definitely had trade. I'm not trying to say you didn't have trade. I'm not trying to say you didn't have profit for trade. But and you definitely had markets. Now, for all of that kind of stuff, you needed licenses. And and this is why I say capitalism doesn't work, is it's not so much like we think of a license in the modern sense of, well, you need a license to drive is like being a qualification, or you need a license to sell hot dogs in a hot dog cart because we want to have health checks to make sure that, you know, you're not poisoning your customers by bad practices. Now, the license is sort of like a tax, or is basically a tax. Now, there may also be other taxes too, but it's so you don't overflood a market or drain a market. Because if you allowed capitalism and the most profitable thing you could grow, let's say, would be flax, everybody would start growing flax. Okay. Now, two things could both happen. One, you grow so much flax, it's now worthless because there's too much of it. And people, yeah, are rational. People, I mean, they're also irrational too, but they can make rational decisions. And, so how much is the demand going to be for your flax? And what's going to happen if everyone grows flax? There's not going to be any wheat grown or other, food stuff grown. So you need to have somebody say, you must grow a certain amount of wheat because we all need to eat. And you may license, if you will, or allow some people to have some of their fields growing flax. Now, we're just in a management game where I'm, clicking on fields and saying, fallow or wheat or barley or flax, or if we had the rye. Yeah, I'm just sort of, but you could go, hey, yeah, I'm going to give permission for, a quarter of this field and a third of this field and blah, into flax to some of these people. And yeah, you can grow flax. Give me, 30% of your flax that you grow. And you can do with whatever you want, presumably sell the rest of your flax. So that you don't, drain out too much. So it needs to be a managed economy. It needs to have licenses. It needs to have protections from flooding in of other stuff. You have the, like I say, you do have trade, you do have shipping. Ships are the most efficient way to get anything around, or barges if you're on a major river. But it needs to be a managed economy. It needs to be, at some level, a command economy. Because you can't, we have what's going on here, like the economy here, where we're growing wheat, we're winnowing wheat into grain, we're turning grain into flour, we're turning flour into bread, we're having iron dug up, we're having the bloomery turn it into purified iron slabs, as they're calling them. We're having a smithy create tools. Bread is being traded for tools. Tools are becoming excess over here to needs. We are selling tools for money to be able to buy things like weapons, which we currently don't make. So, yes, we're doing this, but we still have to manage the system. It's still there, mercantilism, and I know it best through the English example. they had lots and lots of regulations. It's what the Americans sort of rebelled against. But their regulations kept the system working because there was the ability to plan for the future. In the sense that if, say, you lived in the North American colonies, those which eventually rebel, or Canada or whatever, you lived up there, you knew you could buy you could buy sugar or molasses or whatever from from down in Jamaica at a certain price. That so you could buy a warehouse full of it when a ship showed up, and you could sell it during the rest of the year. You weren't going to have a French or a Spanish ship show up from one of their sugar islands with a bunch of molasses and try to sell it for half the price. And you go, hey, I've just invested, equivalent of $1 million in a warehouse full of sugar, and now somebody shows up and their selling price is $500,000. And so they're going to capture the market for the whole year, and you've lost all your money. Oh, Arno, if you want to get rid of a bot, there's a bot you could get rid of. Which would put people out of business, which would mean people with money would not want to risk buying a shipload of molasses. So when a ship would show up with molasses, they'd sell some because people, want molasses now, but they wouldn't have anybody there willing to buy the whole shipload and sell it out during the year or whatever equivalency of it. And we've definitely seen the destruction of American industry by political decisions that made certain assumptions that have turned out to be entirely wrong. And America, and I was having a discussion with a friend, but recently, sort of along these topics, but America is on the road to collapse, people. Now, my friend was saying, nope, it isn't. It's still the hegemonic power, blah, 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 blah. Now, he wasn't American. But we're on the road to collapse because we're no longer the manufacturing powerhouse. Because, again, we've made decisions based on capitalistic ideology, not capitalistic realities, but capitalistic ideologies, that free trade was the best way to go. Well, free trade within a market equilibrium, and by that, both it's free trade, meaning it's not within the American economy there's lots of subsidies. It's not subsidized or not tariffed or whatever. It's free trade, and it's working within the same balanced economy of equilibrium, meaning everybody's working on the same currency. So everybody, it would be like this area here has one currency and this area has a different currency, and this currency is worth two of these, but either one of them will buy a loaf of bread. Well, that means bread is twice as expensive as it is over here. So if you could make bread here, and you could sell, for the cost of one here, but you would sell it for one of these, which is worth two of your currency. So you get, you sell your bread over here for one of these and then turn it into two. So you're doubling your money selling it here, or you're making bread for half as much here. So if everybody is working on the same currency, and two, if you have things like minimum wages, everybody's working on the same minimum wage. This is why manufacturing has moved from, those that we still do manufacturing, have moved from the Rust Belt, part of it, I mean, some of it's moved out of the U.S., but part of it is that they have a minimum wage. Oh, hey, to work on cars here, to work in a factory, you've got to be paid $25 an hour, because that's what the unions and the government have agreed to say. It's $25 an hour. When you go down to Alabama, they'll do the same work for $15 an hour. Where are you going to play? All things being equal, where are you going to put your factory? You're going to move it to the $15 an hour market. So that is an element to it. And so you get, so yes, free markets, capitalism, and capitalism, as we're talking about Adam Smith and follow-ons from him, we're talking about that there needs to be a market, meaning a competitive, multiple, sources for things, not a monopoly, not one car manufacturer that makes all the cars. You got to have a plethora, of manufacturers competing. Once you get into, we're not just talking about private ownership. We're talking about the needs of having a market. So you may need government intervention to keep a monopoly from happening. And you may have to go where something is something of a monopoly, like railways or electricity companies. Meaning we only have one set of power lines going to your home. So we don't allow the electric company to set its own electric price rates. The government sort of has a say in it, so that they can't just say, well, hey, we're going to double your electricity bill. What? Well, if you don't pay it, you don't get electricity. Well, too bad for you. No, because we, through common spaces, we allow them to run their electric lines. So we set certain rates. And if they need to go up, well, they got to get government permission. Now, if they can specify, well, hey, now our manufacture, we use, we had been using coal, now we're going to use natural gas or something that's greener. Well, that's going to be cost double, and so, yeah, so that there may be reasons for increasing your electricity cost, and often government mandated reasons. So, yeah, capitalism is great, but there's also, with capitalism in the modern sense, railways, trucks, modern shipping, that you can shift goods easily around. You can have a few states grow the overwhelming amount of food in, say, the United States, and ship that readily to places that don't grow that much food, and it works. But again, going back to this, you don't have that option. You don't have refrigeration and freezing and whatnot to store food, to transport it. You don't have the modern conveniences. So capitalism is great. Capitalism is the best economic system so far devised by mankind, but it needs certain conditions for it to function. If you don't have, it's not going to function if you, because there are different systems and there's different supports and there's different conditions. If you allow flooding in of goods from other economies, and those other economies are often barring you from, or other people from, entering in, like China in particular, does not allow foreign imports readily. Oh yeah, you can import a Mercedes into China, but there's a huge tax on it. And whatnot. So you can do it, but it's to the point that it is a show-off luxury. Hey, I have so much money, I can waste money and get this Mercedes that has a huge, and I don't want to even say, but has a huge tariff on it. And there's virtually as good as Chinese stuff manufactured. Now, they might be a Mercedes local factory. I don't think there may be. I don't know. And that would be stuff, but that requires a certain percentage of Chinese ownership. So it's not a foreign factory, it's a partially owned by foreign factory kind of thing. And so they have a very controlled economy, and they're dumping it in. And so this is what... Now, we're not that close to collapse right now, gamer. Gamer, you say, Arno. I'm just reading what you're writing there. But what there is, and so this is, America is retrenching itself. It is, through Trump, it is pushing policies that will bring manufacturing back to America. And I think we're doing it in time. And so we will be able to continue to do what we're going to do, what we've been doing. But we've got to have manufacturing. We can't just be a resource exporter. We have to have an industrial base. Europe is gutting its industrial base, or at least some of the countries, particularly like Germany, is gutting its industrial base. It's trying to deindustrialize. Britain is trying to deindustrialize. They want to be a non-industrialized society. And then they're complaining about America. Oh, hey, you gotta support us in our war with Russia. Oh no, we don't need you. We can do it on our own. But we don't have any industry left. So they're deindustrializing. They're it's silly. But yeah, so we're economic planning works and is good for certain things. A planned economy. When you have either single source or single customer, you've got to have a planned economy. and here's what I'm saying is a single source. If you have a single manufacturing facility for a like a particular drug, well, you need to understand and what its customer base is. Is it something like, pain relief medicine? Well, hey, that's the whole population. Now we have multiple companies making pain relief drugs. But if it was insulin for diabetics, well, how many diabetics do you have in your nation? And you have a single source for it. And if you just have the one source, you need to go, hey, you don't get to be, and I know that with insulin there's some issues here, and I don't know the ins and outs, so I'm just taking this as a hypothetical thing. Don't take this as a particular, that I know about this particular thing. But you go, hey, if you have a single source for insulin, okay, well, hey, you don't get to hold the customers or whatever hostage by, well, we're the only company making it. We can double the cost of it. They'll just have to pay it. No, you don't get to hold them hostage if there's like that. And vice versa, they need to be able to plan, well, how many customers do we have? How many people, diabetics that need insulin, are there? And so they need to, know that they need to make a certain amount of insulin. So it's a fixed thing that needs to be planned. Now, if you can have multiple companies making the insulin and they can raise and lower their production rates, and they can, again, I don't know the ins and outs of this, but if there's multiple companies and they're competing, and so they're competing for price, who's doing all that stuff, well, fine, that can be market and that can be capitalistic. But if you have a single source, or if you have a single customer, like building warships right now, I mean, we could, in theory, build warships for other nations, but because shipping in America has basically disappeared, so you almost have a single source as well as a single customer, is like the United States Navy. Or like, if you build nuclear missiles, you're only selling to the United States government. I think it's the Air Force that maintains the big missiles, but you might sell some nuclear missiles to the Navy too, or whatever. But you have a single customer. And so you don't have a capitalistic system there. Because the U.S., generally speaking, I mean, in theory, it might sell missiles to Britain or some other place, but mostly it doesn't sell nuclear missiles anywhere else. Where bullets or rifles, you may sell them overseas or whatever, but or to the American people, but just to the government. So the manufacturers of, say, bombers or whatever that is limited by law to just sell to the government. So you have a single customer. Well, they need to do a planning with the production. Now, it needs to take into account costs, meaning the government just can't demand, oh, we'll make them for half the price. Well, if the company can't function that way because it has to at least break even, or it goes out of business. And if the government's going to set up a factory to make missiles, fine. They still have to buy their components and whatever, so they can't just demand it be less. It'll be the cost that it is to make it. So, command economies are required at Elements. Required, not just are good or bad or whatever. They're required. So that's, you have to, nothing is pure. You can't, pure capitalism or pure command economy or whatever. It needs to be a mix and a flow. And let's see, hello, Alf 100D. This game should involve digging water channels and building commercial ships for export and import. Not quite for Manor Lords, I don't think. When there are several suppliers, the prices tend to be better for consumers versus a single supplier. Yes. Monopolies are only good for the monopolist. Yes, exactly. Yes. When the left, the communist, the socialist, often refers to the capitalist, they're referring to a person or group or company or industry or whatever that has capital. When the right uses capitalism, they mean markets in which there's competition. And we have seen in the 19th century, before the antitrust laws, trusts were sort of a term for basically monopolies, but not necessarily a single company monopoly. It might be 3 or 4 companies getting together and creating in essence, a trust or whatever to set prices. Like if you had 4 manufacturers for steel, they all got in a room and say, hey, our steel's going to cost X. We're all going to sell it at that price. Okay, good. We all agree and turn around and keep to that price. That to break up the trusts, break up the monopolies. Language changes a bit over time. And so we have antitrust laws, anti-monopoly laws in America. And so you need that market competition to keep things going. In most cases, you very well may have a monopoly on like making nuclear missiles or making aircraft carriers or whatever, because you have also a single source customer, and you may have just a single source supplier. Maybe partially because of classified technology, so you don't it may not be the whole aircraft carrier that's single source, but your electronic warfare systems are a single source that are on it or whatever. So you have, it needs, and that of course then needs to be regulated, not just allowed to be a monopoly, and then the company tells the government, well, it's going to be twice as much this time now, ha ha. No, it's regulated, and so you have that kind of stuff. Well, I think we've gotten to the point today that, let me save this. Sometimes the save games have not worked as well as I hope. Let's do LP08. Let's play 08. Saving complete. And then now I want to return, continue. Let the clock tick just a teeny bit, and then I'm going to save again. LP08A. There's a second one. Basically the same. So, I think this will be it for today. Thank you, Beam Slam Alpha, excuse me, 100, ZZ, Arno, Blast Pop, Jamnuska. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Been fun. I'll be back tomorrow with some War Thunder. And like I say, no slithering for me this coming week. But I'll be back next weekend also. So thanks, everyone. Have a good day.